Welcome to episode 16 of the All Things Are podcast. This week we are keeping it international once again, but this time we're going somewhere different. We're not going to America, we're going over to Australia. And today I'm talking to Marcus from ArborPride, who's been in Australia for the best part of 7 years. Marcus, how's it going, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. How are you?
I'm not too bad. So my first question I ask everyone is, how did you get into tree work?
So my uncle is also a tree surgeon. His name's Tony Derbyshire.
Well, that name sounds very familiar to anyone who's listening. If anyone knows who Tony Derbyshire is, you're instantly going to know SawPod.
Yeah. So yeah, he's the creator of the SawPod, and he and I both worked together to come up with the ThrowPod. But he's also runs his own training company down in Andover. And whilst I was still at school, I used to go down and babysit for my cousins, and then I'd work on a Saturday with Tone. And so I got to know the industry that way, and was just dragging branches for him, and he'd let me have a climb every now and again. And
Nice.
Yeah, so I got into it that way. But when I left school, I actually went and did an apprenticeship as a carpenter for a bit, and I moved up to Sheffield and got into rock climbing, and then I had enough of rock climbing. Had enough of working as a carpenter, and I did a few other things, and then chatted to Tony and said, I think I want to get into trees. So he said, well, okay, but I can't really teach you all the science theory kind of stuff behind it. So go to Merris Wood and do the 10-week course. So I went and did that, and I think I was the last group that did it as 10-week course, and then it changed to the 9-week, and then just went straight out into industry from doing that, and that was back in 2009, and so I worked for a company for a couple of years, and then went self-employed, and worked for quite a few companies doing that, and then came out here to Australia.
So you're the guy. I've got to say thank you for coming up with the ThrowPod idea, because obviously we've got a couple of throw weights on our back wall for anyone who's watching us over on YouTube, and the amount of times I've exploded the throw bag over the years, and then I instantly fell in love with the SawPod when I first got that. Absolutely brilliant. You feel like a bit of a rock star. You slide it on your leg, you take her out, you do the cuts, and then the ThrowPod came out, and it was absolutely brilliant. It is literally a little mini missile. The amount of times I've damaged customer lawns because I've chucked her over, not slowed it down. It's just dive bombed straight into the grass.
Yeah. It's good to hear that, but you should always wear your helmet, as it always says on the
PPE, get health and safety all the way.
Yeah.
So you started off, went through Merriwrist College. One of the funny things, anyone who I know who's done those types of courses, I've always called them a fake tree surgeon. Don't be offended, because you've gone and done this 10-week course, you've got all your tickets, and now you can go out and say, I'm a qualified arborist. Sort the lawyers in the industry. So what actually made you... Was it just a case of, I'll go do the course, I'll quickly get everything, and I'll gain the experience? Was it just get the tickets, or did you want to try and also understand a bit more of the theory aspect?
Yeah, so Tone used to teach that course, so he had a good understanding of it. Well, he used to do the practical side of it. So it is that course, when I did it, and I think it still is, it's 2.5 days practical and 2.5 days theory. So you are doing all your idents and soils and tree biology, tree biomechanics and stuff like that. So you do get a good understanding of what's going on. And then, I've picked up stuff off of people I've worked with and Tone. And I'm actually now doing my diploma at a college here in Australia. So I'm working towards becoming more of a consultant. Still want to keep climbing though, and probably do make that sort of a thing that goes hand in hand, doing like aerial assessments and things like that. So yeah.
So what actually made you move over to Australia? Because I know a lot of tree surgeons. There was a couple back in my class when I was in college who the end goal was, "I'll go over to New Zealand, go over to Australia. It's big trees, it's big money." What made you decide? Okay, I'm fed up with the UK. Let's go over to Australia.
Yeah, well, I don't really know why I wanted to come to Oz. I kind of always had New Zealand on the radar, but I'd I'd met a few of those guys too who'd either come back from Oz and or wanted to go, and it seemed like it's kind of a rite of passage thing that a lot of guys want to do.
Yeah,
Um, and I was flicking through ArborJobs one day, and I saw this ad that I'd seen 3 months or so prior, and I thought, oh, maybe the guy didn't work out, something like that. So I'll just have a crack at it, and yeah, here I am, 7 years down the line. Yeah.
yeah. So did you manage to get the help? Because I don't know if it's the same as it is in Australia with America. Did you have to get like sponsorship and visas and all that stuff to be able to work over there?
Yeah, so when I did it, I came out on a working holiday visa. So that gets you. So I already had the job lined up, but I got a working holiday visa. So that means you can work in Australia for a year.
Yeah.
You can only work for one employer for 6 months, and then you got to move on to someone else. And you could do, if you did like 80 days of rural work on a farm, say, you could apply for your second year. So I came out on that, and then after 3 months, I got sponsored with the company ArborPride. So that gave me a 4-year visa to stay with, but I had to stay with them.
Yeah.
And after 2 years of doing that, I could apply for permanent residency, which I am now. So now I'm a permanent resident, and me and my missus have put in our citizenship, so we're just waiting for that to come through now.
Nice. So if say there's a lad in the UK at the moment thinking, "Oh, I want to go over to Australia," how do they go about doing it? Is it a case of just looking at jobs or on any other relevant websites, or can they just basically email companies over there and start speaking?
Yeah. Well, prior to COVID, and the board, because the Australia's got the international borders shut, so no one can really come over at the moment. But they've just, I don't know if you saw it on the news, we've just made, well, Australia and the UK have just done a trade deal. So
Yeah.
they've extended the working holiday visa for 3 years, and they've extended the age limit to 35. So it was 30, now it's 35. But yeah, like, we've pretty much got a permanent advert out on ArborJobs. There's loads of other companies as well that are advertising. To be honest, the industry is out here is screaming for climbers. We just cannot get staff.
Yeah.
So yeah, once the borders open, hopefully we'll get some guys over.
So are you able to like freelance, or with the working visas and all that stuff, it's just you have to stay with the one company for a period of time, and then once you've got your permanent residency, for instance, are you able to then freelance?
Yeah, so if you come out on a working holiday visa, you can do whatever you want. You can go freelancing. It's only when you get sponsored.
Yeah.
It's basically that company is putting their hand up saying, I'll be responsible to a point for this person. So yeah, you can't work anywhere else once you're sponsored. And then once you get your permanent residency, yeah, you're supposed to stay with the company that nominated you for that permanent residency for a year, but no one's really policing that, I don't think. But yeah, I mean, I've stuck with ArborPride because they're a good company to work for. But yeah.
So what is it actually like working in Australia then?
Yeah, well, it depends where you go. Sydney, I'm in Sydney. Sydney's a pretty humid climate during the summer. It does get cooler in the winter. I think the lowest we had this year was about 11 degrees. So, but that's when you get acclimatized. That's cold.
Yeah.
Um,
You're putting on your woolly jumpers and everything
yeah,
at that
yeah,
stage.
yeah. But yeah, it's good fun. It's it's definitely a different experience.
Yeah.
Like there are big trees. It just depends on kind of where you go. Um, yeah, Sydney's North Shore has got it's really leafy and green, and there's some loads of gullies and valleys and stuff like that. They've got some big old remnant, well, not really remnant, but old rainforesty kind of spots that have got some big trees in it. But yeah,
So, is it the same type of work that you're doing over in Australia compared to what you were doing in the UK, or is it very different?
uh, there's still hedge cutting in
Oh, no,
Australia.
there's not, is there?
Yeah, people come out expecting they don't have to do hedge cutting, but
Yeah.
there's definitely hedge cutting to do. But it's it is different because I think in the UK there's a bit of a trend for customers wanting a lollipop tree, a
Yep.
reduction making the tree round. Here it's more sort of end weight reduction of overextended branches and things like that. So because you can reduce a gum, but it's pretty difficult because all the branches and foliage are on the outside of the tree. So it's not often that you've got something decent to reduce to. So yeah, it's just reductions are different. Takedowns are different because you're dealing with higher stuff, and the timber. Well, depending on the tree, the timber's very dense and heavy. But
What are the typical trees that you climb over in Australia?
yeah, so mostly eucalypts. But here in Sydney, there are some cooler climate trees. The sort of I'd say the bread and butter tree in Sydney is liquid ambers.
Never heard of that tree ever until today.
Yeah, it's an American tree, I think, and you get them in the UK, but they're generally a bit more ornamental. But the out here they get massive and they get really bad included unions, and they snap out all the time. So that's kind of like the tree you're always going to sort out because it's falling apart or
Yeah.
something like that. So yeah.
What has been the biggest tree you've climbed in Australia?
So I've done a couple. There's a tree on the south coast of New South Wales called Old Blotchy, and that's about an 80-meter spotted gum. That's the Corymbia maculata, and yeah, it's snapped out sort of halfway up, and then it's just this massive epi that's carried on. It's absolutely huge. And then the second tree, which is again about 80 meters, is called the Woodford tree, and that's in the Blue Mountains, which are about 4 hours, well, not even that, like 3 hours, 2 or 3
Yeah.
hours drive from Sydney, and that's Eucalyptus deanii.
So
Which,
everything in Australia is definitely big.
yeah, I mean, you have to go to kind of these. I mean, if you go down to Melbourne in the Dandenong Ranges, that's where all the big mountain ash are. Um, Sydney's got some, like the tallest tree I've probably worked on is probably about 40 meters, give or take. But yeah, they're generally you got to go find them in the pockets of rainforest or bush and stuff like that. And yeah, it's not everywhere. But I mean, there's 30-meter, 40-meter plus gums, yeah, all around Sydney. So
Is the
yeah,
equipment bigger as well, or is it quite similar to the UK? Because I noticed the trucks and the chippers always seem quite big over there as well.
yeah, massive. Yeah, the smallest chippers you kind of get here are sort of 10-inch. That you do. There's a company called I think they're called John Hanser. They do smaller chippers, and someone's just started importing Timberwolves. But yeah,
Timberwolves into Australia.
yeah,
Must be
yeah,
like little matchboxes, those things over there.
yeah. I think there's definitely a niche for that though, because there's some of the older parts of Sydney have got some really tight roads and stuff like that.
Yeah.
but yeah, we everyone's running big Bandits, big Vermeers, big trucks.
So, what's some of the climbing equipment that you're currently working with?
Me, I'm kind of, well, at the moment, I'm really climbing a lot on the Rope Runner Pro. SRT is a pretty, I can't think of the word. It's not a necessity to climb
Yeah,
SRT, but
it's just
it definitely
pretty
helps.
standard and makes it a lot easier than
Yeah.
two rope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Even just for access, if you climb to the top of the tree and then switch over, you definitely need to be climbing SRT, and big shots are pretty helpful as well.
I've seen a couple of those videos of the big shots. They're not really used in the UK as much. Maybe like once in the blue moon, but like over in Australia, I think it's every other job you go to. Yeah, the throw weights on, going up there, stick it in the cannon, fire it up.
Yeah.
Is there any kit that you use in Australia that you wouldn't actually use in the UK?
Like climbing equipment.
Climbing equipment, machinery, anything?
I haven't used it personally, but there's a few guys rocking the sort of electric ascenders, those Ronin ascenders, I think.
Yeah.
Mate of mine's got one up north. But yeah, I haven't used one myself, but I'd like to give it a go. Look pretty good.
Yeah. Is the equipment more expensive as well? Because I know, obviously, it's Australian dollars, isn't it? And it's more than what it is in the UK. Is like a going rate as such?
It's buying gear is pretty tricky because there are a couple of there are shops here, and some of them are actually getting really good at being competitive. But for a long time, I think, from what I heard, they were just sort of buying it from abroad, from the shops like Honey Brothers and Tree stuff, and then just selling it on with a bit extra chucked on top. But I think now it's getting a lot better, and trying to shop locally is definitely the way to go. But yeah, Honey Brothers have got a big market here. Because
I've always seen with the lads over at Honey's constantly sending stuff over to Australia. And I'm thinking, you're sending it to the other side of the world. How is it cost effective? But when you say, well, a lot of the dealers over in Australia aren't like really dealers as such, it makes absolute perfect sense.
Yeah, and they can get it here. Like, there's a few shops popping up in Sydney now, which is good, and they can get it to you quick. But I've had experiences in the past where I've waited weeks for stuff from Australia, and Honey Brothers can get it to you in 5 days.
Wow.
So yeah, it's it makes a difference. But
what are the wages like for a groundsman and a climber?
So yeah, they're pretty good. I suppose I'm not sure, like, with the exchange rate at the moment, but when I first came out here, I started out on $30 an hour.
Well, that sounds like a lot when you think of what you're on in the UK at the moment.
Yeah, so probably back then the exchange rate might have been. It's never really gone below 50 pence to the dollar, but it just flicks up and down between that. But so yeah, and so it's quite good. I mean, a lot of contractors are charging between $600 and $700 a day. But I think they're sort of expected to bring a bit more to the show, if you know what I mean. So they've generally got their own pickup truck or ute, and they're bringing climbing saw, climbing kit, rigging kit, usually with a GRCS or something like that. Ground saws, their own fuel, their own insurance. So they're bringing a bit more, because when I was contracting in the UK, I was doing it just with climbing kit and a climbing saw. I was using company's fuel, and I started to build up a rigging kit, but I didn't always use it. A lot of the time I just used other people's. But
is health and safety as strict over there as it is in the UK? Or is it a little bit more flexible?
yeah, it's a bit more flexible. It's getting better though.
Yeah.
When I first came here, not at ArborPride, but I saw a few guys on the street driving around, and they'd be climbing trees in shorts and using chainsaws. But I haven't seen that for a few years actually, so it is getting better. Yeah, there's no Lola or anything like that. You do have to get your kit checked, but there's no like rigorous thing like Lola or anything like that.
So one of the questions I've got: how do you deal with the heat over there? Are you in full Type C trousers, or have you got the equivalent to Type A's, or has Australia invented the chainsaw shorts?
Yeah, maybe they have, and chainsaw thongs as well. I mean, and flip flops for the UK. But so no, we don't have to wear Type C's. We can use Type A's when we're climbing. With the heat, I use a Camelback to stay hydrated, and just I try to work the tree and keep as much shade as I possibly can if I'm removing it, and try and
I wouldn't even have thought of that until you're about 2 weeks into the job going, I'll just keep those couple of branches over there for the shade. I'll work on the rest of the tree.
It makes a massive difference.
Yeah.
But clog. There's a chainsaw trouser clogger. They
everyone's getting to know Pete. Everyone's known Pete. Like I'm waiting because they've got to get, I think, CE UK mark to actually be able to come to the UK. But I'm looking at them going, I just want to get them over there. Just sell the Pete, if you listen to this podcast, email me because I'm really keen to actually try the clogger range. Yeah,
they are super light and super airy. They've got big vents on the side of the leg, not on the backs. And they are
like way really better than the old school high flexes and all that stuff. So were you able to take a lot of your kit over and then you quickly realised, oh, this isn't going to work here, you're going to have to buy new stuff? Or when you first went over, you just went, look, I'm just going to buy everything while I'm there?
I did bring a lot of my kit. I did buy a lot of new kit before I came, because you hear all these horror stories about the Australian Border Force going through your stuff and confiscating it and cleaning it and stuff like that. But I didn't have any problems when I came in. But I was actually climbing a lot of SRT in the UK anyway, so I didn't really have to adapt too much.
Is it still stuff you're using, or have you gone with Husqvarna or like an Australian equivalent?
Yeah, well, we use Still at Work, but actually, I've had it for about a year now. Been using the Husqvarna battery saw, and that's great. That's really good, and it's good in the summer as well because you don't have to wear your ear protection. So that's another way to combat the heat. I'm really enjoying using that at the moment, actually.
We'll debunk a myth. Are you managing to get a full day's work out of one battery?
It depends, really. I am pretty conscious about turning it on and off. And I did used to have the 300 size battery, but I've gone down to the 2 because it's just so much lighter. But yeah, I can make it I wouldn't say last a whole day, but I can make it last a couple of trees for sure. Yeah,
longer than what people are expecting.
Yeah, it's a really good saw. Like, and we've got the Still version at work as well, and it smashes that thing. It's way more powerful. That's my
Is there a place where a lot of the expats go where they'll congregate and stay, maybe just in Sydney or Melbourne, or have they kind of just started to spread out all around the coastline?
Yeah, there's definitely, you can work out like pockets where people go. So I live on Sydney's northern beaches, so that's where a lot of the POMs go. Yeah. You get a lot of Irish guys in Bondi. and you get you can pick up other nationalities as well. Like loads of Chilean guys live in Bondi and stuff like that, and you get a lot of Brazilians on the northern beaches where I am, and so people and like Italians, they live in the sort of southern suburbs of Sydney. So people definitely tend to stick to where their communities
Their own
are.
little groups. What are the trade shows like over there? Have you ever attended the climbing competitions?
Yeah. So there's no real trade. Well, there probably are, but I've never been to one. There's no trade shows like the Arbshow trade show, but I've been to a couple of the Australian national competitions and a few regional ones as well. And I also went to climb in the Red Bull comp 2 years ago now, I think.
How was that for an experience? Because I seen Red Bull coming into it going, oh, I'm going to... Because obviously Red Bull get involved in a lot of adrenaline-fueled stuff.
Yeah.
And I was hoping it was going to be like some massive thing that'd take over the industry. But I think it's still just in Australia, isn't it, at the moment?
Yeah, so I've always kind of said it'd be good if Red Bull did something in the industry. It was really good event. It was totally different to like the normal climbing comps you go to, like the ISA style of competition. And it was really fast. Everyone was competitive, but everyone was cheering each other on as well, and loads of camaraderie there. And so the plan pre-COVID was to do one more year in Oz and then take it to another country and do 3 or 4 years in that country and then take it to another country.
Yeah.
So hopefully, the rest of the world will get a chance.
To the UK one day. I'll be mint.
Yeah, but the last one, well, I didn't go to the last one, but loads of people came from all over the world to do the last one. So, because the prize pool for it was like 10 grand or something.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Because that's what like piqued my interest and piqued quite a few people's interest. Go, oh, there's money at the end of this. I'll just go over and get it done. Yeah. And has there been any challenges while you've been in Australia that you've had to overcome?
I mean, I don't know really. Just I suppose I wouldn't say challenges, but just the process of going through sponsorship and permanent residency. It's a long process, and it's quite expensive as well to get to permanent residency. Doing the sponsorship and working holiday stuff, that's cheap. I don't know. It always changes. So permanent residency at the moment isn't actually available to arborists. They took that away a couple of years ago. And my employer is actually working with the local MP that the company's based, the government area that my company's based in. They're trying to work with the MP to try and get it back on the list. And I know guys down in Melbourne are as well trying to do something about it, because it kind of puts people off coming out here if they can't get permanent residency at the end of it.
What's been your best experience?
Well, definitely. I mean, going climbing some of those 2 big trees, that was really good fun. And going climbing competitions and stuff like that, meeting other like-minded guys. I haven't really seen all too much of Australia, really. Like, lots of guys come out here and they tend to travel up the East Coast. I have done some of the East Coast, but not heaps of it. My best experience is probably still to come, hopefully.
Are there any misconceptions for people when they get over to Australia to go, oh, I was expecting this, and it's actually this?
Well, the hedging, like I mentioned before, when I first got here, I kind of thought Australia was one big desert, pretty much. But when I got to Sydney, I was really surprised at how hilly and green, and it's basically a subtropical rainforest. It's crazy. And yeah, I think guys who come out here do have an expectation that it's all big trees every day, all day, which can be.
Yeah.
Just depends who you go and work for, where you go and work. And yeah, to be honest, climbing big trees all day, every day is bloody knackering.
Gonna wear your body out.
Yeah.
So, for anyone listening to our podcast today, what advice would you give to them thinking, right, Australia, New Zealand, that's where I'm wanting to go. What do we need to do next?
You definitely, if you want to get sponsored, you need 2 years experience with one company. That's one of the criteria to get sponsored. So a lot of guys do come out here straight out of college, and they kind of fall at that hurdle.
Yeah.
So yeah, get the experience and try and have a go at SRT as well, and get pretty competent at that, and you'll do well, I think.
So we asked a question over on our Instagram at allthingsorb. We're speaking to an expat who's working in Australia. What questions do you want us to ask? Now, just like the Arborist community, it's not like they actually had any real questions. It was all very Australian-related questions. So we've got 4 questions. First one is, do you have lots of barbecues?
Yeah, it's kind of just, it's not like we don't have people over all the time, like for barbecues and things like that, like a party. But yeah, we cook I certainly do cook on the barbecue a lot. It's kind of just like an extra living space, your outdoor cooking area. It's it's good.
The next question, have you eaten kangaroo meat?
So yeah, the first time I ate kangaroo was actually in the UK. But yeah, I have eaten kangaroo here. You can buy it in the supermarket, and I've eaten crocodile and emu as well.
So you've tried the whole. Can you eat koala over in Australia?
That's a touchy subject.
Touchy subject. Well, we'll move on. Next question: have you gone surfing?
Yeah, I do surf. Yeah.
Do surf?
Yeah, I surfed in the UK as well, but I've actually since being here picked up spearfishing. So yeah, that's my sort of latest hobby.
Your latest hobby. And then the last question, proper Australian. Do you all drink Fosters?
No. They don't even have it here. It's not even a thing. It's just like everyone comes here going, where can I get Fosters? And that they don't drink it. They don't even have it.
Nice. So to wrap her up, for anyone who's thinking, I've got a couple more questions for Marcus, how can they get in touch with you? Is Instagram the best way of doing it?
Yeah. Instagram's probably the best way.
What's your handle on Instagram?
It's Marcus_Arb. ARB. Yeah.
Brilliant. All right, Marcus. Really appreciate you coming on the podcast. I've learned a little bit. Actually learned quite a lot. You don't drink Fosters over there. You do all eat kangaroo meat, and it's not always big trees every other day. Well, I appreciate it. Marcus, thank you very much for coming on the podcast, mate. I'll speak to you soon.
No worries. Thanks for having me.